Hello everyone and welcome back to Riverview metropolitan area. Now in the most recent episode we focused on adding some new suburban developments up here in the northeastern part of the metro area, as well as upzoning some inner city areas that were kind of low density. And we did all that in hopes of bringing in new people, obviously, but also bringing in new young people that could help raise the birth rate, because we've got a bit of an odd demographic situation here. Feels very realistic, but basically I haven't zoned new stuff for quite a while. We've been focusing on public transportation and fixing other issues in the city. And as a result, the adult portion of our demographic setup is very large, and I suspect many of these are old enough to soon retire. So we've got a bit of an issue here where the amount of seniors is growing. This is increasing our death rate. And basically, yeah, without new housing units or without affordable housing, people aren't having kids and new young couples aren't moving in. So it's an attempt to kind of alleviate this, but it's probably going to take many episodes to reverse. We are seeing a slight upwards trend in population currently, but it seems very volatile. And if we check our history here, we can see that we were so close to approaching 100,000 until this curve kind of changed. Now, we also worked on improving the higher education coverage in Riverview because it's quite lacking. And in that context, I suggested that we convert this inner city lot here in downtown Riverview into an inner city university campus. Many of you liked that suggestion, but quite a few of you instead suggested we convert it into a downtown medical center with a major hospital, as that's also something we need to construct somewhere. So I think I can't make the right decision here. I'm gonna let this one go to a vote on my community page here on YouTube. So enable notifications and you'll get a pop-up in the coming days about this vote. Now, with much of our residential demand being satisfied with the new developments, at least for now, we are gonna focus on some of the office demand. And to do that, we are actually gonna move up here to Northport, which is primarily an industrial area, because we'll be converting parts of this industry into offices, which I think is a pretty realistic transition for a city like Riverview. We're also gonna add new office zones up here, and then we're gonna detail the port up because it's a very large, cool area, but it really doesn't have any details at all. And I think I got a few techniques we can use that add a ton of detail and character without actually taking too much time. Now with this revamp, we are also going to add more public transportation to Northport. I'm thinking we're gonna try and squeeze in a small local train station, connect that up with Caldwell and connect that up with the downtown transit hub. Maybe even adding a stop out here on Southside for full coverage of some of the most dense areas of the metro area. But I think something that's even more important from the public transportation point of view is to get a proper bus line to serve this northeastern corridor of the city. My estimate would be that 15,000 people live here, but they don't really have any coverage currently. So we're definitely gonna need to fix that. So, quick reminder to like this video if you enjoy my content. It really does help out. Thank you. So let's actually start by revamping the rail lines here so we can get a small train station in place. I think I'm just gonna pause and then I am going to delete a bunch of industry here just to make space, make some room for the redevelopment we'll be doing. Because I am going to change how this rail line functions here. So let's just see, I'm going to not delete the entirety of that segment. I'm just gonna create an additional node like this and then delete this part here. And then I want a straight segment where I know we can have our station. So I'm gonna select one of these small custom stations that I've been downloading from PDX mods. And we should probably check some contour lines first. So this area is actually relatively flat. We're pretty lucky there. So let's just get this train station placed real close here to the... Oh, I'm gonna flip it. Like this. And I know this is the far northwestern end of Northport, but this is actually where we'll add more jobs. So it's an okay location, and I did assess this area down here south, and it's Yeah, it's gonna be pretty tricky trying to get a passenger station in place here, but I'm thinking that as we add new bus lines, we are gonna cover much of this area as well, so it is going to see a good amount of coverage. So we're gonna focus our attention here then. So this is the station in place. Let's just grab the double train tracks and get this connected. Of course, I don't want the curve to be too excessive, but I think this should be fine. And then we need to lead the train track up here, get a connection going with the existing tracks here. So I think we'll go underneath the highway maybe, just because I think that's gonna look cool. There is a bit of a height difference here though. So I'm just gonna bring this track through here with an add grade crossing. Let's just enable contour lines. Yeah, we've got a hill formation here that I don't want to mess up too much. I don't want to mess up the terrain too much, but this is definitely too steep. So we're gonna lower the elevation here to about 4. If I can, this would actually go underground though. Maybe a bit of terraforming is in order. Just trying to smooth this out ever so slightly. I think if I make a move like this and then just try and make it seamless again, then that could work. Something like this, then we'll just give it another go. And that's more like it. 6.2. Still need to go down to about 4. This is not gonna carry any freight at all. It's primarily, or actually it's solely gonna be a passenger line, because freight lines are using this line here, which I seem to remember has a bit of an easier gradient. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's elevate these segments of the I-25. I'm just gonna elevate all of these and then we'll see where it makes the most sense to go underneath. So if we cross here, we gotta bring this down again to about 4%. And then we can bring this through and start our gradual elevation. Right, let's have a look. Oh, it's an actual tunnel. Don't really want it to be a tunnel though. I like to be able to see it all in its glory. So let's actually delete these segments here, and then what I'm gonna try is some additional terraforming underneath the interstate. So if we grab this level here and we go from this level here, then hopefully that is going to create the passage we want. Just gonna create a lot of space so that we can get the trains through, and then we're gonna worry about making it pretty afterwards. So we'll just go underneath here. Oh, we can utilize a bit more space, it seems. And I'll just go down a bit and then get the connection here in place. Then the soft terrain tool on either side of this. Well, it's a bit of a ravine we've built now. Man-made, but nonetheless. And let's just have a look at that. I think that looks a lot more interesting than the tunnel setup, at least. Like how it crosses underneath here. Let's get the small road connected here to the train station. Actually, let's just grab the regular road here and do a few upgrades so that we can bring this road out front. Gonna see if I can get some snapping going about here. And maybe just bring that all the way up to the national road. And a connection here. And then maybe just a road that kind of splits out here, because we're gonna need a zoning grid to work with for the offices we're building. Yoink. And that should be sufficient. And then we need to create an area here that makes it obvious for the reason that there's a passenger train station here. So what I'm thinking is we'll add some offices and some edited high density commercial, and it's going to look like an area where many of the companies that operate in Northport have their administrative centers and offices, because oftentimes industrial companies will also have regular office buildings, regular office employees to handle all the administrative bureaucracy stuff, all that stuff. So I think this would be a good spot for that, and it would help explain why the city invested in a passenger train station as a new addition after the initial rail lines were laid out many years ago. So I'll just be adding an additional small road here, like this, create a bit more space. And maybe even something as modern as a roundabout here. Maybe even here as well. And maybe even here as well. Never mind, no more roundabouts. And then I'm going to add what I would essentially call mid-rise offices. Now, they obviously don't actually exist in the game. So what we're gonna do instead is we're gonna grab commercial, high density, and then I'm gonna place these and use the Better Bulldozer mod to remove the signs, commercials, and advertisements instead. So for instance, if you grab a building like this, this is probably actually a pretty good example to start with, and I was to place it here, then due to it being a commercial building, it's going to have these, you know, boards with advertisement stuff, and I don't want that. I essentially just want it to look like an office building. I just don't want it to be, you know, 2 stories tall, and I don't want it to be 20 stories tall. I want something a bit in the middle, something mid-rise like this. So I'm just gonna move in and remove all these signs and whatever else could point to it being commercial. And now it's not a commercial building, it's just it's just a boring brutalist office building, which is perfect for some kind of shipping company. And we've got a building here as well, which also kind of fits the bill. So I think we'll just be adding that, maybe adding that a little closer to the train station. Just about here, and I've just filled out for high density commercial level 5 to get like the most fancy buildings, but I may have to go for a lower level as well, because these are actually tall is probably not the word. We could use this for some kind of corner lot as well. I think that would be a good fit, maybe here actually. Let's just see if we can squeeze, or do we have another corner? What's a better fit? We'll do it here instead. Yoink. And I mean, these are the hotels, so it makes sense that they are proper high rises. Let's go to level 4, see what we can find. This one is an interesting building as well, a bit more modern in its look and layout. I think I'll be adding that around here. And this one, oh, this really looks like a headquarters of something. So I'll just add that here, and then we're jumping in with the Better Bulldozer, getting rid of all this signage. Now we just need to sprinkle in some low density, high level office buildings, and we're starting to have ourselves a real boring, dreadful administrative center. Now, an area like this is of course going to need parking. There is a train station here, but this is America, my friends. Most people are just going to drive here in their personal vehicles. So we're gonna use Dome's new overground parking building. because it's very, very cool. So actually we can just enable snapping for this one, I think, and just place it in the middle here. And this is an actual functional overground parking garage. So it's got like for electric vehicles here, lots of detailed stuff. It's even got, you know, booths for electric vehicles on the ground floor here. So just a fantastic asset. Lots of fun getting to actually use that and see it work as well. The rest is going to be surface parking because this is America, land is cheap, relatively cheap at least. But I mean, it gives us an opportunity to make some more interesting designs with the parking at the very least. So here we'll just bring some regular parking out, but then there's nothing stopping us from having like a curved parking segment here. All the way down here maybe. And then getting it connected up to the road here. If it's not gonna complain too much at the very least. And maybe getting a connection in here as well. Oink. And we've even got space for more parking here. Absolutely perfect. We've got space over here and here. We're gonna just start with this, get some surface stuff painted down just to see how imposing it is or how much space it takes up, because then that can help me kind of assess how much more surface parking we're gonna need. And I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Relatively simple, but it's going to make it easy for us to just connect some regular paths, add a bit of landscaping, and then really call it a day for this particular block here. Something I'm pretty curious about is to see just how many people actually start working in these places here, because one of my reluctance to actually trying to meet this demand is that we have more jobs than we have, working age people in the city. So I was pretty certain it wouldn't really affect the city much to add more workplaces. It would only cause more issues as companies would compete for a dwindling pool of able-bodied men and women. This sounds so morbid, but you get what I mean. But it's going to be interesting to see if people actually start working here, and if they do, where those positions then let go at other places, since there are so many jobs. And okay, so half the positions have actually already been taken. That's pretty interesting. I'm just gonna see if some of the signs have respawned. I think I should wait for the companies to actually settle. Yeah, there's a sign here, but that's fine. Before I actually remove the signs, and I've let these signs stay here. K-Pine, this looks pretty office-y. And then we've got chemical or something, which I guess could also make sense with some of the chemical industry down here by the port. So overall, I'm very happy with how this is turning out, but I am a bit surprised about just how many positions have already been occupied. I'm going to add some additional parking, pathways, and some detailing, some trees and some bushes and whatnot. Okay, let's take a little tour. I added a bunch of spruce instead of just spamming oaks as I usually do. And I removed most visible manicured grass here. I wanted this to be like a bit of an area with some just wild, untamed grass mainly. It's better for biodiversity as well. So yeah, just kind of preferred that. Not really sure about these lanes that I added, these visible lanes that I added to the parking lots. It might just be a little much, but I just wanted to play around with it, and it does provide an extra layer of detail. The same can be said for all the stained decals I added. Maybe they're a bit too much. I mean, this area isn't entirely new. Some of the architecture, such as this building, is probably built within the last 10 years or so, but other buildings are like 20, 25 years old. So in the context of the port and the rail lines here, it's a very young district, but it is more than 20 years old. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about all the decals. I really do think they add something. I also just tried to keep the detailing with the pedestrian paths rather simple, tried to frame in some of the lots here by running the paths alongside them, in hopes of just making the buildings feel a little more naturally placed here, and I think I was pretty successful in that endeavor. But the economy is kind of showing its face now, because I have infinite demand, but I can't really supply the buildings I built with the workforce needed. So yeah, it's a bit of an issue. I'm hopeful that the next patch with the economy 2.0 rebalance is gonna help fix this, because they have announced some changes to how demand works. So that's gonna be nice. Anyways, I think I'm gonna rename this district to Port Center. I don't know, that just kind of feels fitting. And then we're going to create the train line that's gonna serve this area. So I think I'm just gonna create the line first, and then I'll try and come up with a clever name. But I think we're gonna call it the Express Line something, because it's going to be confined to the metro area. Because the thing with the current train line we have, the what's it called? What's it actually called? The River Line. Is that it serves a good part of the city, but it also continues north and south, actually entering different cities. So it's not a city-specific network, it's part of like a longer region-wide network. But I think this one is just going to be city-specific. So we'll add a stop out here in Port Center. Then let's see, I apologize for the low FPS. My FPS always tanks when I have the transportation overview on. Then let's add a stop here at Caldwell commuter station. We'll move across the river, we'll move through Old Port. Getting to the central station, we'll add a stop here maybe. And then we'll move through Autumn Mills and the southern suburbs, cross the river to the airport on south side. And let's just get a stop here at the airport as well. And it's a bit confusing here. I'll just add a stop here, I think. Yeah, and then I'll just add stops on our way back. And complete route. Just gonna pause, and I think for now I'm just gonna call this RTA Riverview Express. Lack of imagination. I'm gonna let the color stay. And assigned vehicles, probably just 2 for starters at least. And then I'm going to assess just how much traffic we're actually gonna see here. And I just have to check if I have the necessary, seems I have the necessary capacity to actually get these spawned here by the Northport rail yard. And I am assuming, yeah, this is the first train of our new line. And I'll just be adding just the slightest of detail to the train station here, just to give it a little more character. So it's gonna be a few trees, expanding these surfaces just a bit. Something like this, maybe. Disable snapping here, so we have a little more control, can follow the curvature here of the road. And I think something like this is fine, and then I'll just have to grab a tree of some sort. So let's just go ahead and grab the London plane, or rather the Linton, sorry. We'll go for the big size and just add these. And it would seem we've got a bit of a industrial cargo bottleneck going here, and they're all trying to enter this part of the cargo harbor. So yeah, probably gonna need a little rework of this look. So this crossing is very close to the entry point for the cargo harbor. So if we just delete some of this stuff, let's see if we can get this to work. Upgrade this. And then grab, is a 2-lane highway enough? I mean, hopefully it is. But the traffic is pretty excessive though. I think I'm just gonna have to remove this and then upgrade the highway infrastructure first. So I've deleted the existing off-ramp, upgraded this to a 3-lane segment, this to a 4-lane segment, and then hopefully I will be able to create a nice off-ramp here. Probably gonna disable some snapping though, so that it doesn't cause too many issues. And it's gonna be a bit finicky because there isn't a lot of space here, but hopefully I have Move It on my side to make the final adjustments if necessary. But we'll just start by branching off like that, and then maybe we can get away with a bit of snapping. Just need to find 180 and then bring this down, and then we'll see if that is too crazy a slope here. Adding that here, and then I was thinking we might upgrade this, and that does actually, that gives a bit more space at least between the crossing here and then the entry point for the cargo harbor. And I'm wondering if having a 5-lane asymmetrical section here might help even further, because we do also have traffic just trying to go through this section here due to the other cargo harbor. So maybe 3 lanes is going to help alleviate that. Now the drop off here isn't actually terrible, but I should probably look into just lowering it ever so slightly to ensure that none of the big haulers face any issues when they try and go underneath here. We'll drop this down as well and just lower the area between the 2 nodes here. Do something like this. So hopefully this is gonna be sufficient. Maybe just upgrade this with a key, make that look a little more natural on either side. And yeah, we might even bump this up to a 3-lane configuration now while we're at it. Yank. Hopefully that's gonna help relieving some of this massive queue. Yeah, I haven't noticed this before, but it's been a while since we've spent a lot of time up here, and it seems I'm already seeing slightly better flow here at least. So I'll get back to this in a little while, and we'll see how it all pans out. So even though it's only been a short while since we last checked in with Port Center, it's now sitting at almost 100% occupancy, which is kind of surprising, and they haven't even had any issues filling in the highly educated job offerings either. So I guess this is telling me that despite there not being any universities in Riverview and or college institutions being too far and too few in between, companies aren't having a hard time attracting highly educated people. And I guess it also kind of explains our industrial demand, because if we compare Port Center, even though it's a small area, to our industrial areas that are very old, we're still not able to fill them in completely. I mean, Northport is at about what, 75-80%, and let's see if we move down south to Sterling, it's about the same. And Barlow Ridge, which is also primarily industrial, I mean, that's even worse. So there's really been a shifting dynamic here in Riverview in the past couple of years that kind of explains our increased demand for commercial and office. But seeing that we have so many job offerings compared to the amount of people we have, then all the office and commercial we add is going to be at the expense of all the industry. So I think we are on the right path here by rezoning parts of Northport to office instead. And yeah, leave it to me to try and improve the traffic only for the cars and trucks to literally set on fire. And ever since relocating the off-ramp, trucks now prefer this entrance to the cargo harbor. Okay, so we're just gonna change this up now, remove this stuff, go away, and then we're gonna try something a little different. We're just going to bring this up here. Is that something like this? Maybe even turn it into a 4-laner. Yeah, maybe. Just something like this, and then we'll have a 5-lane asymmetrical configuration in either direction, like this. Hopefully that's gonna alleviate it a little further. Anyways, it's time to get some of this dirty industry out of the ports and replace it with commercial and office job offerings. And I think we're just gonna focus on office for starters, because I don't want to manually do any changes to the commercial assets. We'll keep some of these piers, mainly industrial as well, because that of course has its own charm and a specific look, and it is still an industrial harbor. We're just kind of changing the proportions a bit here so that we've got a bit more administrative office work, stuff like that going on as well. So I'm just gonna clean out some of this, rezone all of that to low density office, let that grow, and then see if that even makes as much as a dent in our demand. And if it doesn't, then I guess I'm gonna have to be a little more drastic in my approach here, but we're just gonna try and fill out some of this stuff here. And I'm gonna do even more than I initially deleted. And we've got this edge here alongside the avenue. So if we just do a bit of terraforming, then hopefully we can just spam a ton of office here, get some new workplaces going. Maybe add in just a single parking lot for good measure. Something like this. We'll just free place it here and place a small one down here. And it seems I actually had less office demand than I initially thought. At least we're burning through it quite fast, but of course it's pretty hard to actually know when it's just completely filled out. So I think we're gonna add a few commercial establishments out here. I imagine that a place like this with so many daily commuters would even have some grocery stores, at least a lot of food options as well out here. So we're just gonna add in some low density commercial in some of the spots where we have zone for office, but where we obviously don't have the demand for it. So let's just get in a few places here, and then fingers crossed that there's gonna be a hot dog stand or a sandwich bar or something in between these new zonings. And it seems this new configuration has sort of managed to kind of split up the cargo traffic so that it uses both entry points of the cargo harbor here. It's definitely not perfect, but we've actually got the massive backlogged queue here completely cleared up, so that's pretty nice. So I'm gonna let that grow and settle, but it doesn't seem to make even the slightest dent in our commercial demand. So this is really where the money is at, I guess. I think we'll just let that settle for a bit, see where we end up. I've got a bit of an abandonment issue here in the northeastern suburbs, and if we just pause and take a look, it seems that walking distance to elementary school is the biggest detractor of happiness for these people, which is kind of ironic and showcases the mistakes I sometimes make, because I built this entire area to lure in young couples or young families, and they don't have any school that they can easily get to, because I think the Chestnut Elementary School up here is actually the closest elementary school. Oh wait, there's the Caldwell Elementary School here as well, but I mean, this area here is, I mean, walking distance. I mean, I guess you could try and walk there if you're insane, but someday your kids aren't gonna go get home from school. So I think should probably just build an elementary school out here. So I'm just gonna remove a few of these houses, then we're gonna place down a school. Let's see. Which one do we want to use? We've got a few custom options as well, but I think, I mean, it's such a good fit for the regular elementary school, so let's not do anything fancy, but just get this placed down right here, and it kind of fit perfectly snug in here. So let's just see, do we need to add anything? No, we can just, oh, we can add a playground maybe. I've already got a playground right here, I think. Let's just add this in, and I'm gonna remove the abandoned houses so that we can get some new developers to move in and build on these lots again, and then we'll check in and see if this issue has been fixed. So there's gonna be a lot of waiting in this episode, but I'm of course gonna spare you the bored waiting times. Another issue out here is unreliable internet service, and that kind of seems to plague this entire part of the northeastern suburbs, including Franklin Crossing. So let's just see if a radio mast is going to help. We've got lots of open space to actually get this placed, so just need to find the right spot for it. It's not a pretty asset, but they never are, so maybe just this corner lot here. Gonna see how far-reaching effects that has. That seems to affect everything, so that was probably a good decision. Continuing with more commercial zoning, I'm moving out here to Sterling, so we are in the southeastern portion of the metro area now. And I think I'm actually just going to remove these two blocks completely and just turn it into like a suburban sprawling shopping center instead. So I think I'm gonna opt to manually place these buildings because I want some versions that are pretty large in scale and have surface parking lots. We're gonna go for low density and just go through, and we can kind of see from the thumbnails here whether they have the parking we want, so that's of course fabulous. And that's gonna mix in with the parking we already have placed here and some of the paths as well, so just gonna place some of these down. Real low density stuff. It's gonna fit in nicely here, I think. We might even add a motel out here. Yeah. Nice place to stay for a few nights, I guess. But this looks really cool, actually. And yeah, I'm gonna let the simulation run and see if it makes a dent to our commercial demand. Probably doesn't. So local demand is high for commercial establishments, high gas station availability, lots of labor available. Taxes are high and high skilled labor. Is taxes actually high, or is this just businesses being businesses? 13%, so I guess I've actually raised them a bit, but it's not too bad. Oh, my commercial demand is actually starting to fall now. I've only sown 50 new lots, but I guess this is actually working. I'm surprised to see that the population is still plummeting, because if we check this, the birth rate has climbed to above 1,000. Now I know the death rate is higher, but it's also lowered. So hopefully we're gonna see a massive rebound real soon. And I know I said that 5 times in the previous episode as well. So I'm putting myself in a position for failure here if it doesn't happen. But if we check our population growth, let's just go for the past 6 months and we'll remove this one. We see that the birth rate is the best it's been for almost a year now, which is very, very nice. We've got this super odd peak, which I can't explain. The death rate is declining, very steady declines now. So I'm thinking that we're starting to see a slight shift in the demographic makeup of the city. Old people are dying off, and we've actually seen an increase in the amount of children and teens. They almost make up 20% of the population now, which is really good to see. So I think we've got positive trends to spot for Riverview, but it's probably gonna take a little while for it to, actually reflect in our population count. So we're just going to build one more office complex, and then we're going to move on to a lot of detailing of Northport, which I'm really looking forward to. I've been wanting to do that for a while, but now we really have the tools to do it in a smart way. But the office complex first. I'm going to remove Garland Lane here and upgrade this highway to just have Crest Street kind of continue the avenue here basically. So let's just see, I'm just gonna clear that out and then we'll just smoothen the terrain a bit. Wow, there's actually quite a bit of elevation here. That's a bit surprising, but I guess I can just try and smoothen this out a bit on either side. Something like this. And then we are going to grab the 4-lane road so that we can continue Crest Street, this avenue we got going here. And we'll just connect that up. And I'm glad I have Anarchy so that it's not an issue. Something like this. And then I think for this, do we actually need a key-sided wall here? No, I don't think that's necessary. I think I'm just gonna handpick some level 5 office buildings. That's the best way to kind of maximize the amount of workplaces we get squeezed out of each one. So I'm just gonna go through and kind of place these alongside the road here. And I don't wanna create too much parking. I imagine this was a major single developer project, or at least just a couple of developers working together to develop all these. And maybe I'll try and see if I can grab some stuff I haven't used in Port Center, but that's probably gonna be hard to completely avoid. But just something that looks a little unique. Something like this, and then just clean up some of the trees here. So that I can add them in where I want them. And there you go, a nice row of low density suburban offices. And let's just add in some grass to this side of the street, or the avenue rather, and then maybe just add in some trees. Gonna make a lot of difference. And now that we've placed Linton trees along the entire stretch of the avenue here, which looks pretty good from up close, we are gonna rename it Linton Avenue, or Linton Express rather. So onwards to some detailing of Northport, and like I said, we now have new tools available through some new nice mods that is hopefully going to make this a lot easier, or at least make it take a lot less time. The first thing I'm just gonna do is get rid of many of these trees and bushes we've had here, because we're gonna get rid of all this grass as well. Some of the assets have bushes and trees, and we can get rid of them with the Better Bulldozer mod, but I think it's okay if a few poke through if they're part of like a grass surface on an asset. That's all right, that's not really a big problem, but we are going to remove all of these freestanding trees here, because we are gonna create a much more grimy, gray, industrial look. That's hopefully going to look really good with a few simple steps. We are gonna use better Bulldozer though to move in and just get rid of all these oak trees and some of these bushes and boulders that are part of the cargo station, because I think that's a bit of a weird detail. And then we are going to jump into pavement surface, and I think we're gonna grab the darker version here. This one, or should we grab this one? I think we're gonna go for the dark version. Because I think that's gonna play in a little more nicely with the railway tracks here. So I'm just gonna try and make like a concept version of this, and then we'll kind of expand it to the rest of the port. So if I were to just paint all this up with the surface painter, like that, that already is a substantial improvement. And then we move into decals, and we go to stain decals, and we grab some of the large ones, and we actually just used a brush here to kind of randomly place these everywhere. Grab one of the other ones, place a few of those. Some of the small ones as well. And then we move in and grab some of these cracked pavement surfaces as well. Then as we zoom in, it's really helped create a much more grimy industrial look without having to like manually hand place all of this stuff. Then the final step basically in this easy detailing process is just to use the picker tool to grab sub buildings from some of these industrial assets or commercial assets and kind of use them to fill out some empty spaces. So for instance, let's see if we can find something here. So I can see this is kind of a substructure that I can use. It's a prop basically, and then I can use that to just, for instance, place it here or maybe here. Just kind of place it at random places so that we don't have these big empty spaces here. I think that's a really cool way to just quickly add a bit more detailing without having to like zone anything new or care about road access and stuff like that. We've of course also got containers which we can easily grab and then just place everywhere, which is a pretty easy way of detailing up industrial areas, of course. But there are a ton of props on all of these buildings. There are crates and like garbage units and just everything we can really use. Grab it and just start layering it everywhere. And here's like another industrial prop we can grab and add maybe to this empty space we're seeing here. And it also opens the menu and find it, where we can find even more of these structures, which is really cool. We can almost create, you know, our own industrial complex by just stitching all these together. Let's see if I can squeeze this one in, and yeah, looks a bit crazy, but I guess it gets the job done. And for the final touch, I've also downloaded some prop versions of in-game vehicles, which should be here under the parking menu. So hopefully I can find some kind of train forestry, train cargo car suites. And then let's see if we can just, yeah, we can add it in fence mode basically, and just add these empty ones. And if you really want to detail it, you can just place down some containers as well and just use move it to elevate them and place them on the actual cargo cars here. But for now, I'm just placing some of these. We've got some foresty stuff here, just placing them randomly. And I really think for the amount of effort this takes and the, you know, size of the area we can cover, then this is really a good, you know, bang for your buck method of just detailing up this area. So I'm just gonna continue and detail up the rest of the port using the very same techniques. Alright, so I think we're gonna call it with the detailing of Northport. I'm pretty happy how this turned out. I didn't want to add too many props, especially with the amount of decals we've been adding, and I just kind of felt like adding in a bit of spruces here and there, and a bit of greenery even, just to kind of break up the contrast. Added a bit of a foresty patch here, and I'm kind of happy how it turned out. The traffic here is still pretty chaotic, but I guess that's just how it is. If we check our train line here, the Riverview Express, then yeah, it's not doing too well. I guess I'll just have to wait and see how this pans out. I'm a bit surprised that it's doing this bad, because it is hitting some major population centers, but I don't know, perhaps people are just commuting by car or something. Yeah. Anyways, another issue I'm encountering is a new wave of abandonment in our new developments. Now, I'm not sure if these houses were already like predetermined to abandon before we added the school and improved the internet service. But I guess it's pretty hard to see why they actually became abandoned, because there's a lot of positives here. There's a bit of unreliable internet service, but I bet if we move closer here, then even that one, yeah, that one's gonna disappear due to the proximity to the new to the tower we placed out here. So I'm a bit at a loss for why these houses are abandoned. My best guess would be that it was, you know, they were already approaching an abandoned state before I added new services. Sorry. So if I delete and let them rebuild, then we're gonna see a more healthy community. But yeah, I'm just guessing by now, because we've also passed 90,000 population on a downwards trend, so we're below that, and we haven't been that for quite a while. So I guess it's just another chapter in the saga of trying to fix our demographics, and it's gonna be interesting to see how things develop over time. But that's gonna be it for this episode, so we'll have to handle the bus line in an upcoming episode instead. Remember to enable notifications if you don't want to miss out on the coming vote in the next couple of days for this downtown lot. What's left to do now is shoot some cinematics and say thank you all so much for watching and all the support. I hope to see you all in the next one. Goodbye.